It's Workshop Wednesday. Welcome to my workshop. I'm Chelsea Bussenmeyer, and today we're talking all about swaybacks and how to fit a swayback. But first, what is a swayback? Well, swayback is simply when you have a sharper S-curve in your back. There's more shape happening in your back, and so that just means that we need to fit the back more closely. Kaylee and Carrie had sent in some questions about how to fit a swayback earlier in February, so I wanted to create this episode of Workshop Wednesday specifically for you and for anyone else that is struggling with understanding how to fit a swayback and what you could do to get the fit that you're looking to have. So let's jump right on into it. Okay, so let's take a look at these two mannequins. Here I have a straight back and I have a mannequin here with more of an S curve and a sway back, as we often call it as well. And you can just see that there's just more shape and more curvature to the back of this garment. So oftentimes a back is constructed, or the back of the garment is constructed with less shape to it. It just very straight. If it's a fitted garment, you may have shape to it, but it's oftentimes just cuts very straight. And that's why if you do have a sway back, you'll find that the back of the garment just doesn't fit you well. And it's not that there's anything wrong with either. It's just that there's not as much shape as you have on the back of your body compared to what the garment has to offer. Now, you may have found that knit garments fit you better, and that's often the case even when you have like a busty chest. You can kind of shape and mold. Knit garments will shape and mold to your body more so you can get away with not putting the shape actually into the garment, but the garment just molding to whatever shape you put in it. But if you're working with a woven material or it's a little to no stretch fabric, then you need to put the actual shape into the garment itself. So the first thing you need to decide is, what is the desired fit or shape of your garment? Do you want the garment to fit very closely to your body, right around your curves and shape? Or, as we can see when we place this straight one on top, or I actually like to place it underneath, then you get a better view of the extra material in the back. Like this, you can see there's just a lot of extra material that's just hanging off from kind of the shoulder blades down to the hem. So either one works and either one is totally okay. It's just a matter of what kind of a fit you're looking to create in the garment that you're making, and do you want a closer fit? Now, we learned last week, and it's true of any project, that whenever you want to bring more shape into a garment, you need to use your seams and your darts. So if we're trying to take shape out of the back of this garment, what would be some ways that we could do this? Well, we almost always have a side seam. So you can simply pull some extra fullness out along the side seam just to bring the back in a little bit. Now, when we're wanting to remove it from the side seam, you need to keep in mind that if the front fits properly, you might not want to take it in symmetrically. Oftentimes when we take in a side seam, we just pinch it and take the same amount from the front and the back. But in this case, the front sits perfectly fine, and we just want to bring it in the back. So you'd only want to bring in from the back panel. Now, anytime you bring in just from one panel, just gonna move this over from one panel. Let's just say this is the back pattern piece, and we're just taking it off from the side, right at the waist, whatever it is that we need. The length of our seam here is going to get longer, so you'll need to adjust the front to accommodate that, whether you do a smaller dart or you change the shape of the hem. But anytime we do a curved seam, it's going to become a little bit longer than the straight point A to point B. The other thing that happens is, depending on how much you need to take off, it could become too sharp of a curve. So if you need to really go in, then at some point, depending on the stiffness of your material, it's just going to be too much for one location. This is the case in the front of garments a lot with the bust. We need a lot of shaping around the bust, so that's why we often have the darts in the front, whether they be under the bust or to the side, to create more of that 3D shape without having to purely take it on the side seam. As well as another thing that happens when you pull a lot out of just the side seam is the armhole can start to kind of gape and open up, and that's another common problem in the front when we are shaping that. So what other ways could we take this fullness out? Well, if we don't have any other seams in the back and we need to take out more than what we can comfortably on the side without creating too sharp of an angle or too intense of a shape along the side seam, we need to put in either another seam or some darts. Now, the back middle is a very natural place to add a seam. It's often on a pattern, will be placed on a fold, but you can just as easily, I'm just going to use this tissue here as example of material, you can just as easily bring your pattern out a little bit away from the fold and turn this back middle line into a seam. Now, since this is going to be a seam, you don't need to place it on the fold any longer, and it won't be entirely straight. Again, we will be adding some shape, so we want to remove some of this fullness. So whatever amount of fullness we need to remove from the waist area will blend in and create some shape in that back middle seam. So you can divide the amount that you need to take out of the back on both the side seam and the back middle. If it's quite a bit, then you won't want to take it purely at any one place, but you can divide it, and it doesn't have to be an even split. You can do, 1/3 here and 2/3 on the side seam, or the other way around. Whatever seems to work best for that pattern. Now, the other thing that you can do is add darts in. You may not want to have a seam in the back middle. You may want to cut that on the fold, but just simply adding a dart. And darts don't need to go all the way down to the hem. Oftentimes when you have darts in the back, they'll simply just be a short distance. The nice thing about adding darts in like this is you can do it after the fact. So you can just cut out the garment as regular, and then when you can put it on, just kind of pinch those darts into place and ensure that you like the placement of them, and then just stitch those in as you are, again, removing material in this scenario. The other really important thing to think about is always measure your front and back length. Now, I always teach measuring the distance to all of your horizontal lines, to where your bust is, where your waist is, where you want the hem of the garment to be, where your hips are, as we're all different proportioned as to where these lines are and the distance between them. It's also really important to measure from your shoulder seam down over the bust point to where you would like the hem in the front, as well as from the shoulder down over the back, and if you want the back to be fitted right close along your back, down to where you want your hem to be. I'm just going to place this back on top so we can get kind of a visual. Oftentimes we think of hems as being exactly horizontal and level, but you don't necessarily need to have your hem level. If you have a busty chest, then you know that you often add extra length over the front just so that you can get a level hemline when the garment is on, that the distance here is longer, but the distance in the back can also vary, especially when you have a sway back and you have any kind of hips or booty, then oftentimes your garments can kind of stack or bunch up on your back just because the hem isn't full enough to really slide down, especially if it's more fitted. So there's two things to think about. You need to know the distance of how long you want your garment to be in both the front and the back, and you need to ensure that your hem fullness is going to be full enough or wide enough that your garment can sit as low as you want it to be while adding however much shape you want in the back to get the fit around the curve in your back that you would like. Now, you may be thinking, I don't want to add a seam or darts to my design. It's going to look tampered with, even though I need more shape to the back. So I wanted to bring this t-shirt to your attention. Now, a t-shirt we often think of as a garment that doesn't have a back seam, and it's true. A lot of them don't. However, this t-shirt, and I put it on inside out so that you could more easily see the seam allowance and the seam, it does have a middle back seam, and this is actually the way that I bought it. And so I really want you to just let go of thinking that when you're adding details to better accommodate your shape, that it's going to be obvious. It's obvious to you because you know that you changed it, but it can totally fit into the flow and the style of the design. And adding seams and darts can be really decorative and add a little extra something as well to make your clothes more fun. Now, I wanted to just pinch this t-shirt here quickly just to show you how those adjustments would be on a garment when you are thinking about making them. So once again, here we have just a little bit of loose material where it falls from the shoulder until it hits the hips. And I could totally just pull on the side right before the side seam. Now you'll notice if I take it from both the front and the back, if the front didn't need any removed, it's going to bring my side seam forward. So my side seam will no longer be straight up and down. And that's the goal with the side seam, is to always ensure that it's sitting very straight up and down and isn't bulging kind of to the front or to the back. That's when we know that the proportions of the fullness that we have in the garment isn't lining up with our body's proportions. We often think of fit as just making sure that the garment is big enough that our body can fit into the garment, but it's more than that. That's why I always teach fit in the 3 pillars of fit. It is the physical fit that you can physically get in is the number one thing, but the next is the proportional fit. You need to have the fullness in the right spot, and we don't need the fullness in the back when we have that extra gaping and bulking. We need it just taken out of only the back. So you can just pinch that side seam and see, you know, can I take it all out of the side seam? Or can I take it out of the middle back? Or how much do I want to take at the back to bring it in and bring that S curve shape into my garment? You can also take it and have your little darts. So playing around with it after you have it kind of pieced together can also be a great way to kind of decide where you want to take it. The only thing is, if you don't have a seam, you haven't created a seam at all in the center back, then you won't be able to create it after the fact if you need that fullness in the upper shoulder area. So let's recap what we learned today. First of all, it's of the utmost importance to decide what type of fit do I want. Do I want it to be tailored and to fit in the curve of my back, or do I want it to just flow over my shoulders and go straight down to the hem, just ensuring that the hem is full enough that the garment can hang and drape straight down to the end and not stack on my hips or my bum in the back? Or do I want to bring more shape into the garment? That's the second point. Bringing more shape into the garment. Where and how do I want to do that with this style and design and this fabric? And do I need to take it from multiple places or not? The other tip that I wanted to leave you with, our third tip, is always ensure that you measure length and know that you don't have to have that hem actually even and parallel and level all the way around. That if you do want your garments to sit, you know, above your bum in the back, but you want to make sure you have enough length that it comes down to where you want it in the front, you can totally have somewhat of a tilted hem, and that will look totally fine and won't throw anybody off when you're wearing the garment, and you will feel the most comfortable in the garment if all of the measurements and places that it hits you and fits you and flows are really lined up to your personal preference in fit and style. That brings us to the end of this week's episode of Workshop Wednesday. Next week is all about working with knit fabrics, so different weights and different stretch of knits and some tips on how to understand them and best work with them. So I'm super excited for that episode as well. Leave any questions you have around knit fabrics in the comments or shoot me an email, and I'd love to hear any takeaways or comments from today's episode. What was maybe an aha moment for you, and if this episode was helpful for you. Don't forget to join my Facebook group if you're not already in the group. I'd love to see you there and chat a little bit more back and forth and get into some more personalized questions and projects in the group. Thanks for joining me, and we'll see you next week on Workshop Wednesday.